Yeah, so my name is REO. I'm a music producer and visual artist. Um, been freelance for like the last 15 years, just creating music and art for myself and others, working with brands and collectives. Been in the NFT space since about September, October, but started minting my own work in January. Um, it's been going pretty well. Got to do some, really cool collaborations as well, and just overall excited, man, to be, um, moving from being a freelancer that um, helps other people's dreams come true, to now being able to uh, have my own dreams come true, with my own art and be considered an artist and not just a content creator. Um, just that change of the label is super, super important for me as a digital artist, mainly a digital artist. So yeah, man, that's just a little bit about me. How about yourself?
Word up, bro. Definitely gonna talk a lot about some of that experience for sure because we got some similarities. But yeah, for those who are tuning in, my name is Ameer, otherwise known as Sursu on the interwebs. Mainly when it comes to like either my art or making NFTs within this crypto space. Uh, I'm even though I was a classically trained artist, I know like traditionalist. I found my love and passion in uh, the digital art sphere. Went to SCAD and graduated with service design. So I was before I even really like. I think I ended up upgrading my art based upon taking a lot of courses in humanities. So anthropology is like a huge defining, I guess, like topic and subject of interest for me. And I think it was like because I got a chance to understand and really like learn how to learn about other cultures, communities, and how things are formed, how people, how culture is created, decision making around like, what constitutes, um, tradition versus non-tradition. It really kind of shaped how I thought about my work and how I was contributing or taking away from in certain cases, uh, you know, from culture that I participate in or that I like. Um, so it was very interesting. It's like a super interesting kind of like push and pull that I've put into being a participant within this crypto space, and then trying to figure out how to really enable the best of the technology to create a safe space for all of us to practice and preserve the cultures that we're born into, that we're a part of, or that we create for ourselves. So I like that kind of work, and I definitely can't wait to talk a little bit more about it. But yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm a designer, first and foremost. Had agency background, and now I've been transitioning into kind of starting my own uh, practice related to the uplifting of cultural creatives. So that's what I do.
That's tight, man. It's crazy. I almost went to SCAD myself. I It was three schools I was looking at. I was looking at RISD in Rhode Island, SCAD, and Ringling School of Art and Design, which is the one I ended up going to. But I grew up in South Carolina, so it was like not too far.
Yo, that's wild because I was obsessed with Ringling College of Art all throughout high school. I went to high school in Florida, and I would go visit the campus every summer, and just like be around like where all the like just seeing all the students like sketching and drawing and stuff. I'm like, I want to be a part of that culture so bad. But ended up having a chance encounter with a recruiter at this gallery that told me to check out SCAD, and I ended up driving to Georgia and fell in love with it. And I was like, this is it. Um, but yeah, Ringling was definitely the my top art school, if anything. But yeah, SCAD was tight though. I did enjoy it.
No, it's crazy because I think the only reason I didn't go to SCAD was because it was too close to South Carolina. I wanted to
I
get
feel that.
as far away as I could, and Florida was, hot and warm. And what's crazy, I ended up staying in Sarasota for like 8 years after that. Um,
Damn. Wow.
so I know Sarasota pretty well.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Yeah, I remember my parents were looking to like find a place to live out there at one point. I was obsessed with the area so much. They were like, well, damn, well, you might as well like find a place, like see if we could live there or something. Um, but yeah, I think it was like the Spanish architecture and a lot of the like some of the stuff that you would see like in California, like LA, San Francisco, whatever, where like it's super Mediterranean. Like that was like huge over there in that area, and I liked it at the time. I thought that was really cool. But
And
yeah, man,
it's so
that's funny.
crazy. Now they have like this MTV show based on Sarasota Siesta Key, and like all kind of stuff. It like really kind of blew up. And at the time, it was only for like a bunch of old people to come down and retire. So it's kind of cool to see it kind of grow in popularity for something other than that. But
Wow,
yeah,
that's awesome, man. That's really cool. Because yeah, no, definitely like Florida, as I've come to understand it and grew up in it, it was like, yeah, this is it's sports heavy,
mm,
and yeah, it's for retirees.
definitely. What
But
part
I
of Florida
remember
did you grow up in?
so I grew up in Riverview. So I was born and raised in Philly, and then I moved to my grandparents lived in Tampa, and then they moved to Riverview right around the time I was in middle like eighth grade, and then going into ninth. And my mom had looked at the area, and because she's a nutritionist and uh, organizational development coach and all that. My mom does like everything, and she saw like this. She saw this area, and she was like, "Oh my god! Like I could build a private practice here and like practice, naturopathic healing and like spot treatments and all this other kind of stuff." And so we like my parents just pulled the trigger on like uh, getting a spot in one of those like strip malls,
Mm,
and built this whole thing out. And yeah, so we moved as a result, and we went to Riverview High School, and yeah, so I was there a lot. But I would go because we had a lot of games. I had played soccer, and I was like goalie, or like I was like second goalie, and we would play teams out in Sarasota. We'd go to East Bay. We practically go everywhere. So it was
mm.
always like this interesting thing. I got a chance to see a good amount of Florida as a result.
Okay. Where's Riverview at? I don't remember that. Is it
It's
close to Orlando?
it's 45 minutes north of Tampa. So like
Oh wow.
yeah, so like it's like Tampa, which is like more central, Riverview, and then Orlando is like above us.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
Sarasota is like 45 minutes south of Tampa. So I used to
Exactly.
always go up there, go to Ybor. You already know, being crazy college student. Um, but yeah, man, I love what you were saying too about anthropology and about that being a big part of your art. Anytime we've ever been in clubhouse rooms and stuff like that, I've always admired that side of what you do. And you were actually one of the people that really kind of put me on to a lot of the logistics and stuff about getting like a MetaMask and like all those other things. So big shout out to you, man, because I know that you were pretty instrumental in helping a lot of people get, not just like, oh, I have these ideas about doing it, but running through the steps of actually how to do that.
I appreciate you, man, because I like it was so interesting, like in when I started last summer, like in July, August. Like it's crazy because like I got back into crypto like buying into like these degen like DeFi tokens that I had no understanding of how the fuck any of this was working. And then like my friend tells me about Rarible, and then like it completely changed everything I thought about crypto. I was like, wow, like, okay, like there's a space for artists. Okay, like let me actually get serious and start thinking about what this really means. And by the time it got to where Clubhouse was blowing up, and I got a chance to hear some rooms in November, I was like, well, if I'm like I'm still new at this. I understand most of the jargon because of my own like self learning, but this is very difficult for anyone to grasp. Yeah, there's got to be a better way how we can talk about the work that we do, or the work that's happening in the space. And so I really was just like, how can I be intentional and try to help like make it more approachable, even though it's still a whole lot to take in. And then that kicked off the whole becoming a crypto creator like series on Instagram, and then doing that for like 2 or 3 months, where I got a chance to talk to you a lot. But yeah, man, I mean, look, my big goal was, I work in tech a lot, and so I'm keenly aware of like a lot of the ins and outs of how things are built, even if I don't know all of the concepts. But even still, it's like, you know, how do we make it approachable without dumbing it down? I don't want anybody to feel dumb,
Yeah.
or like feel like we have to come up with nicknames, or like, shorteners for what's actually happening. We should be able to, like, people are smart enough to understand a concept if you just put it in like some like layman's terms, like some form of whether it's using an example, a real world example that they might be able to grasp, something to that effect, but to still use the actual words to describe what the actual action is.
Yeah.
I feel like when people reduce too early, nobody really gets a core understanding. It's almost like saying, cloud computing, for instance. Like, people came up with that concept, but you ask somebody what the cloud does, they're like, I don't know, it just does shit. Like, that's not helpful at all, right? Like, you or nor I could build off of that concept, because we don't have a core understanding of exactly what cloud computing, for example, does. And so I noticed that people were like either talking too jargon heavy, or they were being too reductive when talking about crypto and NFTs. And it was like, nobody's gonna be able to use this. It's not useful. So I wanted to like find a different way. So I'm glad that I was able to like at least start breaking that down a little bit. So yeah.
No, you definitely did. And that was one of the crazy things about the timing of COVID, all of us being locked in, this technology kind of finally starting to hit, I can't even say mainstream, but at least start to hit the creative community, and that we all were just inside and had the time to kind of absorb it. Because it's even funny now, like I'm not on Clubhouse nearly as much because, we outside now, and, there's life happening and all these different things. But it was just like this perfect storm, of just the right time and the tech all meeting at one. And then people like yourself being, more than just an artist, and being sort of, this community leader that, you know, is, like you're saying, like not dumbing it down, but also not speaking like way over anybody's head, like hitting that sweet spot. And for myself, like I do a lot of things with technology, but I don't know how to code. I don't know how to, like, there's a lot of things that I'll never be able to do. But I gravitate towards like tutorials and things like that, where people don't talk to me like I'm stupid, but also it's not a 20-minute video, you know what I mean? And then they're talking for the first 15 minutes, and then they show this little 1 to 2 minute thing of how to do what I'm looking to do. It's like I'm always trying to find that same sweet spot, with learning online. But yeah, man, I would love to hear more about, I know that you started the Mint Fund and stuff like that, and like, what your plans are for that in the future and stuff.
Word up. Yeah, man. I definitely agree with everything you were saying before. And once when we're able to allow, like, to make sure that that level of education is completely accessible and available to everyone in the space, then like that's how mainstream happens. Um, and so part of the Mint Fund's goal is, you know we started it to help artists mint for free on Ethereum when gas fees were crazy. And even though gas fees are not as crazy as they were, um, it's like, how do we build on this? And a couple of different things that we've been investigating right now is artist advocacy and artist development. How can we work with artists and say, okay, here, we're going to help you mint for free, but let's talk about how we can get you in other spaces that might be useful, whether that's like commissions or whether that's getting you connected with the right type of other communities that can amplify your work or be a part of a culture that you're a part of. For instance, one of our mint funders, his name is Gian, I think, and he's like he's working on building like a DAO for queer creatives, and like that type of stuff is really cool because since we're already in line with that, it's nothing for us to just say, okay, like, let's help you get some of the moving pieces. We've already started our own version of like what a DAO can be representative of. We can help you spin this up because now we have access to those resources. So if you want to build something like as an offshoot or something completely unrelated, but you now have the backing of Mint Fund to go ahead and do what it is that you want to do. Person's very and then like when it comes to like artist advocacy, for instance, we want to make sure that artists have legal representation in the case of getting hit with DMCA's or like making sure artists can operate under fair use, and craft very good arguments for the use of that type of work. There's a huge like underbelly of IP conversations happening and figuring out like what owning an NFT actually means and what do you get and all this other kind of stuff, and being able to like kind of cut through the noise and really get to something more definitive, I think would not only like set a better precedent for the space overall, it will help artists really understand kind of like how they can operate with properties of intellectual property that they actually like. For instance, like the idea of minting fan art, right? Like nobody stops anybody from making fan art or even from selling fan art, but there's a fine line between that and IP theft, right? And so being able to like navigate sufficiently within that to help artists really like protect themselves, because many of us just we're not big enough to fight those battles. Like a company could just litigate us to death slowly. They don't even need to win. They don't even want to have to really persecute. They just want to drain you of your funds and demoralize you so that you don't do anything else, right? So being able to really kind of build some clear guardrails against that type of legal manipulation would be super beneficial for all of us. And so that's some of the stuff that we're looking into building out, and I think that's going to be really part of our future, is leaning heavily into artist development and advocacy, more so than just saying here's a faucet of grabbing funds to mint for free. We can offer so much more, so that's our goal.
It's amazing, man. You hit a trigger point for me because I was in a lawsuit for 6 years with Cash Money Records, Lil Wayne's label, and it was one of those things where I produced the song for Lil Wayne and Bruno Mars, and it was on the radio, and the video had like hundreds of millions of views, and meanwhile I wasn't getting paid, and it demoralized me. And then having to file the paperwork and having all the receipts and the proof that I produced it and we both signed the contract and y'all were supposed to pay me. And it got me to the point to where it was very much like what you were saying, just like it got me to the point where I couldn't even sit in front of the computer or the keyboard to like make music, because it was just like, what's the point? And ironically, that's what kind of got me into making digital art, because I've always drawn and made art in other ways, but not really with the computer like that. So I started learning Cinema 4D. I started to mess around with After Effects and And that's how I ended up where I am today, because I realized that this thing that I loved, which, music, and I put so much of my time and energy into it, wasn't uh, reciprocating the love, or at least the people I was dealing with, right? And it's so important, like you were saying, for artist development, not just how to get better, but how to deal with money, when you get it, how to deal with, not getting it, how to, deal with some success, how to, get through those times when there's a little bit of a drought. And, as we see, even with the NFT market, it's like, it's up, it's down, it's in the middle. And, we all, our mental health, I think, also took a big hit, just with COVID and stuff like that. So I think it's super important, what you're doing too, in that way. Just speaking from an artist that has been through a lot of those ups and downs, just even in my own career. So I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah, man, that's heavy, dude. Like, I mean, just and I'm glad that you managed to pivot, right, and like say, you know what, like this, I can use this opportunity or this time to like really explore something that you've always wanted to try to like get into. And I definitely want to talk a lot about your visual artwork, because like your ugly masks work has been super dope. I remember when you first talked about it, so I want to get into a lot of your work and your practice now. But yeah, man, I mean, like like you were saying, not just like the legal but the financial aspects. I've been doing a lot of that too, like really discovering how we can really leverage the benefits of decentralized finance, and like what it means to, like, when you earn money, minting and selling NFTs, like what do you do with that bread, like being very, very smart about it. And I'm not like a financial advisor, and I don't really know much more outside of like how to manage and mitigate like taxes within the United States, for instance. But I mean, a lot of these, like, the stuff that we do here in America still applies largely everywhere else, right? And so, just being able to be like, okay, the concept of, as an artist, you don't want to have to deal with business, but you are in a business because you're selling your work. And so having the wherewithal to be patient with that process and to really understand it just puts you in so much, in a better situation overall, because you know as the market is volatile, and even just as demand for your work is volatile, right? Like there are going to be years where you're on just like straight up forever, and then like there could be a year where you have no work, but you got to be able to make sure that like you can live like for that entire year. And so you can do that off the strength of the work that you have, if you know how to manage and make that money stretch. And I think with DeFi, like, we have this very unique ability to make that happen. And I think by selling our work, we have like, NFTs are the intro into the crypto landscape, and there's so much more about it that we can participate in. Um, just by being a product of it, that a lot of people are missing. And so yeah, I think that's super, super important. But yeah, dude, I definitely want to get into a lot of the work that you're doing, and kind of like what inspired you to make the Ugly Mask project, and then what else you're working on.
Thanks, man. Just to speak on what you were saying too, like, two of my brothers are actually financial advisors, and they're always telling me to get into stocks and this and that, but it's just been so boring to me. It just like doesn't do anything for me. So then when NFTs were coming out and I'm talking about crypto and I'm telling them all these things, and they were acting like that was too volatile. It's like, this is crazy, like, but for me, it just made sense. And then, selling a piece of work for 1 ETH, and, that being $2,000, and then just leaving it in ETH, and then that growing to 4,000. I was like, this is the first time I feel like I've really invested in anything that I understand, you know, or at least I'm watching my investments and what they're doing and the returns and this and that. Like, and I got really into it. And, um, you know, I think that's important. And I should just say, you know, I'm African and Native American. And so, you know, as two people of culture, like, you know, they definitely don't teach us that, you know, about investments and about, you know, that's something that comes with, you know, being around people smarter than you. And I think that's what's amazing about this is that artists start learning about this um, in the terms of art, you know, and not just money in this invisible stock that you're buying. You actually see this thing that you find value in, and et cetera. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out at first. But to get to the ugly mask thing, yeah, man, I've been making all kinds of digital art, all kinds of stuff. I had a style that really took off a couple years ago, and I got hired by a bunch of brands to kind of do that. It was more of like a cloning, duplicating technique. And I was just started out doing it on my Instagram. And there's these moments where you know, you're just making things and posting it, and then you see this like very visible reaction, a difference in sort of how people respond. And um, as much as me personally, I care about what I want to make as an artist and things like that. I think maybe even it having to do with music and just like learning about trends and like kind of what was popular and in certain ways, like how to make that your own. I listen to the streets in that way. And so when the streets are telling me that they're feeling this, I'm like, and I already enjoyed making it, I'm gonna try to continue down that path. So I started out with that one thing and I had amazing, you know, luck and timing. Nike DM'd me, Christian Dior, Calvin Klein, like all these clients. But it was mainly for that particular style. And then it got to the point to where I was getting like ripped off a lot. And, you know, there was a lot of people like hitting me up, like, hey, let's work. And then, you know, I tell them a price and they disappear. And I'd see the campaign on TV or on the internet and it looks just like mine. Like my whole stuff was a mood board. So I officially was like, I I think I need to move on. And I created a couple Instagram filters because I was getting hit up for me to put that style, like get on a picture that someone would send me. And I felt like the ultimate sort of me like really letting this go was for me to make this filter so anybody can use it and make themselves look like this. And that way I was no longer involved and I created almost a tool instead of just making the content. So I did that and then I just kind of felt weird because I'm out here and I let go of this thing that was popular. And as you know, like with the internet, it's like something's popular and it's not like before where you can just do that style your whole life. Like I feel like you have to evolve. And for me, like I told you before, I went from art school, dropped out of art school to make music, and then I did the music thing, and then I stopped doing that to get back into digital art. So I feel like one of my gifts is to sort of continually evolve. And in January, I started an everyday's practice because I noticed that I was only spending 1 or 2 days in Cinema 4D every month. I was working on projects or commissions, but I would only open it up and I'd forget what I learned every time I opened it up. Like, how do I do this again? And so I just had no momentum. And I knew that, especially after watching Beeple and some other really great artists online that had an everyday's practice, you could just see them get a little bit better every day. And I wanted that for me, and especially with 3D. So I started every days, and then I started to notice, you know, in January, like the calls are pretty limited as far as like work and stuff because businesses are just starting to kind of get back rolling. And so I had plenty of time, and so I started spending like 5 hours on my everyday, and I was making these really elaborate scenes with like robots and cyborgs and stuff, and they were cool, you know. But as the work started coming in and I started getting commissions and stuff, I realized that I had to honor the energy that comes with every days, and get a little bit better every day. Spend an hour, maybe 2 hours doing this, not 5, and just really get in there. And the other part about it is like, this post anxiety that we have, where you post something, you get you don't get the reaction you want. And so you're just like, oh, I'm not going to post tomorrow. Why am I going to post anymore? Because people don't even see it, the algorithm, blah, blah, blah. But when you do an everyday's project, it's like, it doesn't matter if it's good or people see it or they don't, you've got to post the next day. And I think that was really helpful for me to get out of my own head and just post the work. And so I started doing that. But then I reached one point where I was just like, I need to relieve this pressure of myself to make this like beautiful thing that everyone's like, oh my God, this is amazing. How'd you do that? And so I said, what if I made something ugly? Like, what if that was my intention? And that way I sort of get rid of this, giant expectation out of my own self. And so I made the first one, and it's that same moment I was telling you about before, where I saw the visceral reaction to the work, and everybody was like, oh my God, this is ugly, but it's beautiful. And I was like, I might have stumbled upon something here. And so the next day I did it again, and then I did it after that, and then it was just from there on, I knew what I was doing. Like, and that's another part about sometimes those limitations with creativity. It's like, I know that the camera angle's fixed. I know it's going to be this character that I just got to like manipulate and distort and pick some colors and some textures. And so it kind of gave me a box to stay in, but creatively to sort of like, expand upon. And so now the piece that I have with CADAF that's in, France right now is one of the ugly masks that I've done. So I'm super, super proud of how this all came about, and how I ended up doing this process that not only helped me, in my own, mind, and sort of explore this idea of what is ugly and what is beautiful, and sort of ride that line. And I love riding that line. And you kind of mentioned something earlier about that too, about, both. And sometimes I do things that look like a painting, but it's not. And I just love sort of that gray area in between.
Damn, bro. Like that's actually a crazy ass like story, starting from, kind of like recognizing that there was a space that you didn't really deal with a lot, and then decided to like really dedicate some time into uh, putting more effort into that space when it comes to like 3D modeling, and then realizing that it wasn't sustainable to create a ritual around, as far as like the everydays, and then going from that, and then recognizing too that I have like this anxiety about the performance of it all, like what happens when you post, what happens when you finally show what you're doing, right? um and then realizing that, oh, when it comes to like this ritualistic practice, it doesn't matter who's watching, it's really all about the being in the moment of ritual. um and then into discovering, like, you know what if I subvert my expectation of what it is that I want to make and do something different? And then it led you to the Ugly Mass project, which is stupid fire. And like that's such an interesting tale of growth and discovery that I think a lot of us as artists like don't really tap into often. Finding a way to get out of, I think that's really how you get out of a creative rut, and how you get out of feeling complacent about where you are, and kind of going through the motions, like, dealing with commissions and stuff day in, day out, year in, year out. Like not all of them challenge you. And sometimes it just feels like, yeah, I'm just doing what I'm doing. But you don't get a chance to really express or uncover something different. And I think it's very important that whether people do every days or do some other form of ritualistic means of improvement, I think all of that stuff is super, super needed, to sort of like sustain and build a more comprehensive creative tank. So that's pretty sick, dude.
Thanks, man. And I want to know more about the piece that you have in here as well.
Yeah, so like um there's so it's actually funny because I submitted a couple and I don't really know which one got picked to go in. So but I have a feeling it's probably, if it's not one of my audio projects, which is like it was like Minting Memories, I think it's probably one of my self-portraits. And I think it's the sun looks brighter than usual, I believe, which is like my second self-portrait. I made these um after like having an under the influence trip in a freshman year at SCAD. I kind of just like, it's interesting. I found this really cool like tutorial about filling shapes with images. It was like my first time really learning about masking in Illustrator, and I wanted to kind of put it to practice. Um, and so what I experimented with was taking images that I've taken, like photos I've taken of where I lived, and maybe like some fine art illustrations of it, because I was like in design one, I was in drawing one. I had to do like a lot of still life and environmental drawing and recreation of other really good artworks. So I took all of that kind of stuff and then sort of said, okay, well, what if I created a portrait out of that? And then at first it was like super flat because I just kind of like filled it in and it was like, yeah, this is not really dynamic. So then I was like, okay, what if I really, really, really got into it and like thought about shadows and lighting, um, and all of that. And so I like started to like arrange and crop and like switch the images around so that it would really look like it had the depth of like my actual face. Um, and then that, I think that stuck. And so after I kind of came out of my creative haze of not really knowing what I was making, I kind of saw like, these two like self-portraits. One's called Captain Spacey, and then the second one is The Sun Looks Brighter Than Usual. And that one I took kind of like leaves, because I had like an afro at the time, and kind of like sprinkled it around and kind of created like the actual hair for the piece. And that's been like a super popular, but it was really it defined kind of like my style of illustration. I was even able to like recreate a good amount of it and like the line work, like in like sketching it out. And so that started like this whole train of this abstract portrait style that I've sort of like developed over the past decade. So I've been doing that a lot, and it led to like the work that got picked up by a collector Ito on a foundation called Eyes of Mine that was a part of my original like triptych of self portraits, but I could never really finish it. Like for some reason, I just did not have the, I don't even know what it was, but it just kind of stayed largely as a sketch, and I finally got a chance to finish it on my birthday, and then it got sold recently, and so that was really 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 huge.
I love those
But
pieces.
but yeah, man, like that's I think that piece is there, but I don't know because I never got a chance to actually confirm which one they picked.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying I love those pieces on foundation. I remember when I was seeing your page on there, I was like, "Yo, these are dope." Um,
Thank you, thank
yeah,
you. Yeah.
we both kind of deal with those, faces. And someone once told me, a statistic about social media is that the posts that do really well have some sort of human figure or face in it. And before I was doing a lot of abstract work, abstract expressionism and meditative sort of things. And it wasn't until I heard that a friend told me that I started to put more faces in my work. And I think maybe that's why, there's that human connection element that we see ourselves, in the work. But I want to know a little bit more about the music side of you too. Like I see, in your profile, you have headphones on, and you even mentioned having a couple audio pieces. How does music, fit into your work and what you do?
Oh yeah, that's a good question. So at first, I minted some voice notes from my stay in Japan. I had an artist residency in 2019 in the summer, and we were invited to like this secret beach party. And I like was really enjoying the vibe, so I just put my phone on record and just kind of like left it and was just like hanging out. Um, and so it was birthed after. So like Zora invited me to be one of their like initial artists to like test their ad, like do like a soft beta launch before it got really like open. And I was really struggling to figure out what I wanted to mint because it gave me like this really interesting Tumblr vibe where I was like, yeah, I could post my work, but I kind of want to experiment and do something different. And at first, like my brother's a musician, so he makes a lot of work, and I was gonna like do one of his like remix one of his things or like just mint one of his things and just like test the waters and see if people would even like be receptive to his stuff. But then I was like, I would rather him mint it on his own because like the provenance of it, that aspect is something I really um, wanted to honor. So I found those voice notes and posted those, and then that kind of like the reception I got from that, from like the Discord and from the people like from Zora themselves, and like Twitter was pretty big. So I was like, you know what? Okay, there's something here, and like it got me more excited to experiment with it with this way in which we can deliver content now. And so then it got me to I then said, all right, let me talk to my brother. I sold one of his pieces, like sold one of his like sketches of a song. I think it was like 2 minutes long. And then like I worked with a guy and we built like Zora FM, which was like this radio station that took all the audio NFTs and audio visual NFTs and just put them in a playlist. I helped like I did some of like the UI stuff. I mean, Eric mainly built the entire thing, but I was like, let me help you with making it look cool. So we had collaborated on that, and then he ended up minting that as an NFT, and then I bought it, which is really cool too. But later, I kind of like I posted a DJ set that I made in with some of my roommates, and I don't know, I really liked the I took a bunch of like sounds and stems that we sort of all created together, and then just made like this soundscape for like 35 minutes. Um, and I minted that mainly because it really felt in line with a lot of the other audio work that I was pushing out. Um, but I wanted to really experiment again and say like, can we use like audio to tell more of a message and it not necessarily have to be tied to the performance aspect or like the like what it really is to be like a musician or like a music artist. Like I'm not any of those, but I do enjoy sound and music and audio. And so, how could I fit within that context without actually having to be defined as a musician or someone who makes music?
Wow.
So that's like a lot of the interesting stuff that I've been thinking about and like and experimenting with, and who knows? We'll see maybe like how the cookie crumbles in a couple of months or so and see how people react to it.
That's what's up, man. It's so crazy that you said Japan because I was there in April of 2019 for the first time. I was there for
Oh,
2 weeks.
shit, that's dope.
Yeah, man. During
Where'd you stay?
Sakura season. I can't remember. I know it was in the city, pretty close to everything. It was like a little Airbnb. Me and one of my good friends, Seth, went. He had been before, but it was my first time. And just how inspired, I already was by Japanese culture, and then having the bar set really high in my head. And then when I went there, it was just even better than I imagined. Um, yeah, and I cannot wait to go back. Like I know they're not open yet, but as soon as things start to get ready, I'm definitely buying a ticket. But
That's a fact.
hell yeah, man. But to go back to what you were saying about the music, that's the one thing I am most excited about too, is the idea of sound and music. Because to me, they're synonymous. Like they're I've always done both at the same time. Like whenever I was young, I was in my room drawing and the music was on. I was a dancer and it was like I was creating art out of the music. And then some of the people that inspired me the most, they were, the Michael Jackson's, his music videos, Missy Elliott, even like a FK Twigs, like they really use the visuals to make the music even better. And even this idea of sound, voice notes, or, poetry, or just anything to add that extra layer. And I've always wanted to call myself a world builder, because I see myself creating the music, the visuals, the smells, the texture, the things that you touch. A lot of people say that in my ugly mask stuff, that's what really stands out is the textures. And I just recently connected with my father 2 years ago, and right actually after I came back from Japan, and he's blind, and so one of my goals is to make an art show that he can experience, something that's just not relying on visuals. And it's just like so insane to me, like now that the sovereignty that is on the table, at least for artists, is also there for musicians, because it takes 1 million streams to make $4,000 on Spotify. But
What?
yeah,
That is ridiculous.
it's 0.002 cents a stream. And as you can tell from that, I mean, there's not that many people that have that. And even if they do, I mean, $4,000, that's a couple months rent in some cases. And how can you make a living off of that? So the fact that now, I'm actually on this, you probably heard about it, it's called Catalog, and it's built on top of Zora, where
Yep.
yeah, you can sell the NFT of the music, and you're not selling the master, the copyright, any of those things. You're selling, the NFT version of it. And just the fact that people can make $4,000 off of just one person and one NFT, to me, is opening the door, for so many people to not have to rely on the music industry in itself, and to be as niche and unique in themselves as possible, and not have to cater to anybody, or any particular sound or anything, and just be themselves, make the music they want to make, and have the supporters, in order to continue to go. And as a, visual artist and a musician, like, both sides of me are so excited for the future and what this means, for us.
Yeah, bro, that's huge. I mean, the first thing I want to touch on is when you make that spatial show for your dad. I definitely want to learn more about that at some point, because I think that's huge. We had a one of our other earlier Mint Fund cohorts. His name is Ravi, and he's deaf, and so so he works obviously on the opposite end, where it's like it's not audio focused, it's all visual focused. And it's such an interesting uh, learning experience, I think, for me and for most of the other people at Mint Fund too, to just kind of figure out how do we facilitate and create a space, for neuro and physiologically diverse individuals to create and in an unbridled and amazing way. And then for folks who are also like that on the other end, how do they get to experience that work, you know, wholeheartedly, so that they don't feel like they're missing out on what other people are creating. And so one of my other long-term goals is to figure out how to ensure that there's this level of documentation through the use of alt text and so on and so forth, but to push the practice to get other people to really be considerate of everyone, so that everybody has a chance to experience work, even if they're not completely able bodied.
Man,
So like that's a really like close thing that I've been trying to think about. So yeah, dude, I definitely want to learn more about that at some point. I know we don't have time for it now, but I want to bring attention to that because that.
No, that's incredible too, man, because I went to go visit my dad 2 weeks ago, and he's older, him and his girlfriend, and so she helps to take care of him and stuff like that. And they don't know much about technology, and I tell them about all this stuff, and they're just kind of like, okay, and I brought him one of my infinite objects that I had, and you know, we're trying to like explain it to him, like what the art is. But while we were there, I noticed that my dad would be watching these TV shows, these old shows like Walker, Texas Ranger, and stuff like that. And he's just hearing like gunshots and certain things. And he doesn't know what's going on. And so I did some research, and again, most people might know about this, but I didn't know. And that's why I wanted to do some research. But I got him an Amazon Fire Stick, and I put like Netflix and like HBO Max and everything that I have. I put that on the thing for him. But I was able to find they have audio description tracks in a bunch of movies and TV shows, and there's a way to kind of filter out which ones have it and don't. And so we watched Soul, the movie from Pixar, and they have the audio description track where it explains like the logos that come up on the screen and like what's actually happening, and they do it in a way to where it's in between the dialogue and it's not just audio on top of audio. And I'm telling you, like the look on his face, the fact that he actually could hear what was going on in the story and things like that, it gave me this idea, and maybe we can work on stuff about this too, about having audio description tracks for the artwork as well, to sort of begin to like make it inclusive, like, and truly think about everyone that's going to be able to view this, and the other way around as well for your friend who's deaf. It's like, as artists, and I'm so much more aware of that now just because of my dad's experience, and I want to make that more of the norm, that we try to be mindful of those things.
Yeah, I didn't even know that. It's actually funny because like I'll listen to like director's cuts and have like how they talk about scenes, but it doesn't really have also like it still requires like a visual component so that you can look at what they're talking about. But I didn't realize that they had audio descriptions like that you could have in a movie so that you can actually listen to how they describe what's going on. It's almost like reading it's almost like they're reading the screenplay, which is really
Yeah,
sick.
it
I'm
feels
definitely gonna
like
have to
that.
check that out. That's fire.
Yeah, it is, man. And again, like I said, for just to see how happy it made him that he didn't have to guess or just miss out on so much, and he's blind because of a stroke. It's not like he grew up blind, so it's even harder for him. He doesn't read Braille. He already knows what things look like and sound like, and from when I was talking to him, he was told that people who are born blind, they don't know what they haven't seen, and so they can kind of move a little bit different. But for someone that's had their sight for 60 something years and then all of a sudden you don't, it's just been really hard for him. So I was just so happy to kind of leave that with them, that now that even when she has to leave and go do, his girlfriend has to leave and go do some errands or something like that, that now even he presses the button on the Amazon Alexa, and he could just be like, Alexa, play Prince, and it just plays Prince greatest hits, and he doesn't have to do anything else. And so yeah, that was just a little tangent, but yeah, man, I'm super happy about that, and I want that to be something that I play a bigger part in as well moving forward.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna definitely connect with you on that probably sometime next week. I've been in stealth mode building an NFT platform for Black artists, and so that's definitely like something I wanna completely explore and find ways to incorporate in what I've already got built out. So I definitely like would want you to come through and mess around with what we've built so far, get your feedback on it. And I think the way that we've presented the work, I think can completely allow that type of accessibility. And I would definitely love to figure out how we can sort of incorporate that. So you can already have something out of the box that you can start kind of experimenting with.
Sounds good, man. Looks like we hit an hour already, bro. It's so crazy.
Yeah, that was quick.
Easy breezy.
Absolutely. That was fire. I definitely enjoyed the conversation for sure, dude. This was dope.
For sure, man. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you to CADAF and, just showing our stuff. I got to see earlier that it was shown in the Louvre, which is like, super incredible. And I'm very, very grateful for all of you guys. Big shout out to Jess as well with Studio As We Are for always, being gracious to me and to you as well, Ameer. Thank you for all your insight and, again, even helping me understand NFTs and what I was getting into. So big shout out to you, man.
Much appreciated. Much appreciated. Definitely sending all the love back. And, shout out to the Mint Fund family. I hope everyone is having a good time. And, I think we're on the cusp of something really, really cool. And I think game changing for all creatives. So, the more of us get active and find ways to create impact, the better it is for all of us. So, let's keep pressing.
Yeah, let's get it. All right, man. Have a good day, bro.
Oh, you too, brother.
All right. Peace out.
Thank you both.